Someone summoned me.
Yes.
This shit's really gonna come in here and make me erase my own damn notes from my own damn fiction to address this bullshit. Our topic today, friends, is why Christian, and I put Christian in quotes for a reason, which we'll get to, but why Christian media sucks, for lack of a better word. Hi, my name is Sara Streisand. I am a Christian witch lay theologian, also a writer. Specifically, I do have a master's degree in creative writing, and I also minored in film. So, as someone who understands anything about theology and the complexity of the human spirit, and also someone who understands the demonic and, other more supernatural witchy forces, and also as someone who knows how to write a fucking story, seeing stuff like this actually puts me in a fucking tree. Seeing stuff like this irritates me for many reasons, and the biggest reason is because this stuff is actively rotting your brain. And not just because it's AI. Found this dog shit because it showed up when the delightful Nevermore Aries, highlighted it. I had to go witness this for myself. I had to see with my own eyes what the hell we're dealing with. And so naturally, that led into a whole bunch of stuff. So in this video, I'm gonna do a couple things. I'm gonna make an argument, aka a thesis. Great. And then I'm gonna show you the full goofy nonsense that was what Aries was talking about. We're going to go through the storyboard. We're going to go through, the writerly issues I have with it. And then we're also, after we're done with that, we're going to go through why the media is this way, and why it sucks so bad, and why it's very bad for your brain to consume it. Again, not just because it's AI generated, although that in itself is already a reason to put it down and walk away, but because the way the stories in these things are told is actively damaging your ability to think critically, to hold nuance, and to understand that good and evil are not necessarily black and white, but are in fact many shades of gray. And when you consume this kind of media, it makes it very easy to see the world in the same black and white way that is extremely damaging to your ability to deal with and cope with a very complex world full of very complex people. So before we even get started, I'm gonna show you a little something that's very goofy and very silly. But I'm gonna make 2 points here. My first point is that Christian media sucks. And again, you'll notice I put quotes in here. I have to define Christian, in quotes, as the actual genre and industry of purposely marketed Christian fiction, right? So as a writer, right, we understand that genre means something. When you have a fantasy book, you're expecting there to be some magical element. When you have a science fiction book, you're expecting there to be something related to science, maybe space travel, maybe aliens, maybe some kind of technology. Likewise, Christian in quotes, I'm referring to the literal actual Christian media industry, which is quite a large industry in and of itself, producing movies, books, music, right? All that kind of is more especially evangelical, Protestant flavored stuff that is quite profitable, right? And has been for a long time. And that a lot of, especially if you read books like Jesus and John Wayne and other ones like The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory, it's an industry that seems to have kind of replaced the need to actually read the Bible for a lot of Christians. So a lot of Christians, they want to make a big show about reading the Bible, but really what they're doing is reading more stuff like these Christian romances and these Christian Christian mysteries and all these Christian flavored books, which are really just slapped on some very ham-fisted media. I don't even actually, this isn't really point 2, this is kind of point 1A, B, and C, which is that it sucks because it has no moral intrigue. It has no ability to be interpreted and looked at multiple ways, and this is important. Christian media sucks, and it sucks because it's not up for debate. There's no real human complexity, and it is not meant to be seen from multiple different points of view. So let's just get this out of the way. Christian fiction with the quotes doesn't mean any media that has like religious themes in it, doesn't mean anything that deals with like, you know, ideas and struggles of divinity, afterlife, our place in the world. It's not that, right? Like, it's not any of that kind of stuff. Christian fiction is that shite-ass industry full of garbage, and especially stuff like, if you've ever watched, you know, Reads with Rachel, she does some reviews on some of these things. These kinds of books generally aren't great. And they're not great for this reason, because they're not up for debate. They have very ham-fisted morals that the author is basically megaphoning out to you, and that they are not generally up for interpretation because there is no complexity to them. And someone else was making this exact point on a broader scale. I forget who said it. It was a long time ago I saw this video, but they were talking about why, in general, like, right-wing media sucks. And it's for much the same reason. Because there is no intrigue. There is no, you know, like, shades of gray to the thing that we're all witnessing. There's no, well, this could have happened this way, or, well, you could look at it this way. There's not really any of that. It puts an answer in your face instead of a question, was what that guy was saying. Just like the person was saying about right wing, I'm funneling that down further to specifically Christian, because I do think a lot of it starts here. And I think if you read books, again, like Jesus and John Wayne, like The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory, if you read books like When Religion Hurts You, you're going to understand that this is by design. Christian media sucks on purpose, for a reason. So, right, now let's take a look at the actual story itself. Because the story itself has some things in it that are ass, just from a writerly standpoint. We have this goofy little video, which seems to be made by this page, that is generating a lot of this AI slop and doing some goofy things with it.
Time to cause pain.
So right off the bat, we're having a bad time because this is a 2-minute AI-generated pile of shit. But second of all, let's get that out of the way for a second, and let's actually look at the storyboard content of this. I watched the whole 2 minutes of this mess and storyboarded it, and in that storyboard, I found that, you know, probably the person generating this isn't writing their own script, obviously by hand. They're probably just saying, generate me story about battle between angel demon or whatever, and that's probably why it sucks. But let's pretend for a moment that a real human with a real fucking brain actually went through and thought of the story. Let's go through the story. So we've got a lady and her husband who are just trying to make breakfast in the morning or something, but unbeknownst to them, outside their house in the middle of extreme suburbia are just a bunch of demons rolling around. We have one lady whose name is Jezebel, because of course it is. And then we also get 2 other demons. Here are our teams, and this one is obviously the bad side. And this one, because they're all super Christian and good, they're obviously the good side. Great. But in the storyboard, right, we've got a few beats. Basically, storyboard, we got some simple scenes here, right? We've got demon scene to husband and wife scene, back to the demons, back to the husband and wife, back to the demons, back to the husband. Very just back and forth, just ping-ponging back and forth between these 2 perspectives. And we get, because it's AI generated, it's dog shit, this goes without saying, but we got the demons, we got Jezebel being like, oh, I have a plan for you, demon, that's why I summoned you. Fuck off, other demon that was already standing there, I guess. Okay, great. This sets up some tension. To loosely define the concept of tension, we're gonna call it the fucking reason that you consume media. The reason that you don't just go away from the media and stop watching it after the first 5 minutes, right? Because there is something happening. There is some kind of stakes or conflict that creates uncertainty in the plot, right? You can't look at it and go, I know exactly what's going to happen, so I don't have to worry about it. The point of tension in a story is to give the readers a sense of that, like, what's gonna happen? Are they gonna succeed? Oh my god. So, okay, we have this inciting incident here with these two demons, or Jezebel, or whatever the fuck, plotting. We have an inciting incident. Jezebel is plotting something. Great. Inciting incident is the reason the story is happening. Cool. So, great. And that is building some tension because we know something bad's gonna happen. And we're saying, oh my god, are the husband and wife who are so cute gonna be okay? What's gonna happen? Next clip has these two doing some goofy shit. They're gonna go make breakfast. But first, and before we make breakfast, because this is a spiritually dangerous activity, we have to put on the armor of Christ. Don't forget that. You can't fry that bacon sizzles and pops, and you gotta get the hot oil. No. Armor of Christ. That'll protect you from all them pesky little kitchen burns, don't you worry. And I especially love the stupid fucking, like, I don't know, blue armor that pops up. I don't know about y'all, but when I do my prayers, it doesn't necessarily make me go Super Saiyan like that, but whatever. I digress. Anyway, so okay, cool, right? Now there's a fucking scale here, right? There's a little scale. There's the evil demons, and there's the good Christians. And now the good Christian has some leverage, has some power on this scale. Awesome, right? It's not just like obvious that the demon's gonna go dominate. These guys have the power of Christ. Cool. That doesn't mean that the demon's not gonna try, of course, and that's where we get our next scenes. We have a literal repeat of the opening. Same exact scene, like a demon coming in. Why'd you summon me? Oh, I have a plan. Exact same thing, because again, this is AI generated shit, and AI generated shit can't create comprehensive fucking plot lines. Whatever. The Armor of Christ prayer apparently also makes this magical fucking Jesus bubble pop up around the house, and the demon says, I'm not gonna go through that, and Jezebel's like, don't worry, you're gonna go through the door. Despite the fact that the door is behind the fucking bubble, I'm gonna give you a fancy definition of a plot hole. Instead of just saying it's when shit doesn't make any fucking sense, I'm gonna tell you that it's when something in a story makes no logical sense and is incongruent with the established story lore or mechanics or just previous events that have happened. Right? So a plot hole happens when a writer forgets what the fuck they were doing, creates a situation that they want to plot armor themselves out of, armor of Christ, more like armor of this dog shit AI plot, and otherwise makes it so that the thing the author wants to happen can still happen and serve their purposes, regardless of whether or not it actually would happen if this were playing out in real life. Please do note how I said the thing the author wants to happen. We also just, like, have the wife saying stupid shit, right? So I was researching, and isn't it crazy that we have electricity and a soul? As if these two things are related, or as if a soul is necessarily researchable in any concrete, definable way like electricity is. Whatever, we can't even get into that fucking shit show. In between all that, we have Jezebel pop up as a regular human woman. This is the point in which I said, oh cool, is there gonna be some intrigue? Is there gonna be some, like, anything happening that would be actually in line with what people think demons do, right? Deception or any of this other stuff? No, she just does this. And then the other demon somehow just blows through the fucking barrier. Somehow the barrier, again, despite having the armor of Christ and their cool Jesus bubble, all it took, somehow Jezebel got in anyway, and then also somehow Jezebel just looking at this guy was enough to get the demon in, and the demon, we get the demon saying something very on the nose, as writers like to say. It's very on the nose, which means that it was presented without nuance, intrigue, or any ability to read deeper into what was going on, to interpret it, to, you know, maybe think differently about it, chew on a little bit. No, demon pops in and says, time to cause pain, and then that's all she fucking wrote, really. Plopping that in there, and giving no shade, no character, no nothing to the demons, no understanding to the demons, none of it. Which is irritating to me for a myriad of reasons. Mainly because it's bad writing. And remember when I was talking about tension? And how tension is the reason we read the story? Right. So immediately the tension gets blown away because some angels come out of literally nowhere, fight the demons off before they get a chance to do literally anything, and that's it. The end. Done. Nothing bad actually materially has happened. The demons go just eating shit to these angel swords. The angels repair the Jesus bubble, and then we get this like goofy ass like moral of the story monologue at the end, which is leading me to wonder if this guy fucking hallucinated that entire battle outside, because like, why are you randomly in the middle of girly girl talking about electricity, souls, and, like, cooking eggs, are you bringing up something about angels and demons and throwing in this ham-fisted line about the devil prowling around like a roaring lion? Good job trying to make a reference to your own fucking religion, but given that nothing fucking happened to these people, they experienced no growth, no change, no trials and tribulations, no literally fucking anything, they just kind of like had a brief moment where maybe something sort of kind of could have happened and then didn't. This whole monologue makes no fucking sense. This whole, I'm so glad I have you, makes no fucking sense, because these characters did not materially change or experience anything or have to overcome anything. The tension died before it could even be born. The conflict was over before it started. The gospel itself had more tension than that. Jesus literally died. People were sad for 3 days. He let him marinate in that tension for 3 days. Jesus himself didn't kill the tension before it started. Jesus just got killed. And again, in the concept of tension, right, when we have that simple 2-minute clip where the tension's killed before it starts, yeah, of course, nothing truly bad can happen to our heroes, because there is this lie that is told in a lot of these denominations, that the godly and the chosen will always be blessed and always have an easy life and always have everything just fine, and that if you are having a bad time, you're under assail by demons or you're not faithful enough. But if you are truly faithful, nothing bad will ever happen to you. God will stop it before it even starts. I don't think any of us are wondering what the problem is with that kind of fucking logos. But that's why these things fall flat, they fall through, because there's never a chance for the characters to grow, because the characters are already assumed to be perfect. The characters are already assumed to be doing what they need to do. And even if something tries to tempt them, there's no way, because they're true Christians, and true Christians would never have these issues. Again, I don't need to explain to you why that line of thinking is so damaging. The truth is that Christian fiction, or fiction that now I define as like, no quotations, Christian, often doesn't have anything to do with any actual argument to be made about a religion. The only fiction I can say that was actually by the author, like, yeah, this is an allegory for Christianity of any kind, is like C.S. Lewis's works. Even Tolkien with Lord of the Rings wasn't actively trying to ham-fistedly Christianize his story. And just because, in case I forgot to explicitly say this, good fiction is good because it holds up a question and asks us, the reader, to answer it. Good fiction is about giving us a puzzle, something to chew on, think about, something that stays with us afterwards, something that makes us think, and that when we encounter the world, gives us context to continue informing our lens in which we view and answer that question. But this kind of fiction, the Christian fiction, doesn't give you a question. It gives you an answer. And in fact, it sticks the funnel in your mouth and shoves that answer down your throat. It doesn't let you experience anything. It doesn't let you challenge yourself and come to your own conclusions. It gives you no room to grow. It is the ultimate, like, built-in helicopter transparent big brother type shit that they try to instill in you so that you don't have that wrong think, so that you don't come away with the wrong thing. It doesn't trust you enough to come to a conclusion that actually is conducive to, like, your growth as a person. That's why it sucks. I have, like, actual educational background in these kinds of things. I have read complex theological books on this stuff, and one of the complex theological books that comes to mind actually when I see stuff like this is in fact Jürgen Moltmann's The Crucified God. In that book, he says that often weak faith, specifically his word is pusillanimous faith, as in cowardly faith, comes about because people just really can't fucking grapple with the fact that this whole question of faith in the first place seems to be in crisis, right? There's an identity relevance crisis that people are going through where they want to identify as Christian, but at the same time, as we move into a society that the church continues to fail, the relevance of Christianity does seem to be sliding away and away and away. When the church itself is not doing the things it needs to do, like, address human suffering, and I'm not just talking like, the suffering the mainstream mega churches tell you about, like, I don't know, corn addiction or something, but legitimate suffering, poverty, illness, and death. When it's not addressing these things anymore, people are going to find other avenues to address it. They're going to walk out of the church and find ways to do the work of Christ in a way that actually impacts and helps people. Social work, charity programs, liberation movements, any of these other things. For the people who want to cling on to a Christian identity and want to basically keep the church static and unshifting and unchanging with the times, right? Which sounds good on paper, but in reality doesn't help anyone. They're lost because they're taught that the only thing the church is supposed to do is just help people get to heaven, and it's not really supposed to do anything else. Basically, within that identity relevance crisis, people cling on to more and more the identity, and by doing so, they suffocate the faith. They suffocate it because they do violence to it. They strip it down to the bare concepts, and especially because the world around them continues to get more and more complex and more difficult to navigate, they get fatigued with having to constantly practice their concept of discernment and use it to actively hold space for and show grace to people. They don't want to live in a world where they have to take everyone on a case-by-case basis and understand that there are degrees of good and bad and that some things are environmental and that some things are not. What they want to do is be able to just cast judgment, good, bad, and then that's really it. And they also look forward to a world that is one day going to end, because then that is the moment that their judgments of good and bad will be officially decided and set in concrete stone. That concept of Judgment Day. Those are the kinds of people especially that this kind of media is made for. And the problem with that is that it's a cyclical, never-ending cycle. You consume the media, you start thinking of the world this way, you want to believe that's how the world works, you want to wish for the end of the world so that you don't have to put so much cognitive pressure on yourself to understand the world's more complex than your church and your pastor and your serious addiction to bad media is telling you that it is. So Christian media, is predatory for those reasons. It's predatory because it is a storytelling that doesn't give us actual ability to look at complex topics and piece them apart and understand that you can have good happening in bad and bad happening in good and all of the other things in between. People who watch that kind of AI-generated garbage, they are out here in the comments saying, we need more movies like this, we need more TV like this, we need all this kind of stuff. And we really don't. We really don't. And this comes into, of course, a larger conversation about what should be in Christian media. In Christian media, you're going to find a lot of things that people say shouldn't be there. Some of those are things like drugs. Some of those are things like, basically just spice of any kind, especially if it's premarital. Oh my goodness, right? Especially that. No drugs, no spice, no like cheating or bad ethics. I've seen people say, if I'm reading a Christian book, I don't want to see this, I don't want to see that, I don't want to see this, I don't want to see that. And it's like, right, basically nothing bad can happen in this Christian fiction. Which, what was I saying before? Tension, conflict. It's a thing that we need for stories to be engaging and for them to be worth reading. So when you say, hey, in my Christian fiction, I don't want any of this, well, you're immediately kind of shit out of luck unless you invent an entire genre of trash, because the entire point of Christianity is that none of us are perfect, and that all of us are going to do something crazy at some point, or come into situations that we might fail, right? Tests that we might fail, and there might be something that happens, and it might be a long road to redemption for us, to recovery, but that we can get there through the grace of God. Like, the entire fucking point is the grace of God helps us, even at our lowest, at our worst, to get up and still hold on to our humanity. That all of these kinds of things do not cancel out our humanity. That's the point of the religion. And when we ban all these things from Christian fiction, we remove this idea. And now, again, you're going to get very black and white thinking. Very, you're a good person or you're a bad person. So for all these people like to have their selective grace, where they really want everyone to forgive and forget the stupid shit they do, they still will hold people to impossible standards and insist that Christians need to be born perfect, rather than Christians need to go through the long and painful road of becoming one with God. So when people say, oh, we need more movies like this, I want to say, bitch, there already is one. First one's Constantine. With Keanu Reeves? Shut the fuck up. You know exactly what I'm talking about. There's Constantine. Another one, Van Helsing. With Hugh Jackman? Hell yeah. Are you kidding me? The whole concept there with Dracula and the devil and all these other... And the whole concept of Rome being... And Van Helsing himself being this person who's going out and trying to deal with these monstrous people, and yet he's always the one who is hunted down and treated like a villain. There are themes to explore. Now that one's super controversial, but the Boondock Saints is also one that I would look at, because the Boondock Saints is supposed to be dark comedy, satire, right? Very ironic dark humor, but also kind of has an interesting play on the concept of being the hands and feet of God, doesn't it? The Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice, Interview with the Vampire Lestat, Queen of the Damned. I'm talking about the books, not the TV show. But the books, the third book had me genuinely like, oh, interesting moral argument, and I like that a lot. Right? But also, there's a lot of drama about understanding yourself in the world, and your place in the world, and trying to come to terms with what you are and like what that makes you in the grand scheme of the rest of society. On a more serious note, TV show wise, Midnight Mass. Midnight Mass was phenomenal. Midnight Mass was great. Like, there is so much that you can pull out of that, especially because it is a directly religious-centered story centering on a small island and that small island's church and that small island's priest at that church. And that raises a lot of questions and makes us look at things that make us uncomfortable, that makes us acknowledge that sometimes the most toxic environment you can be in is in fact a faith environment. There is a way to have fiction really make you wrestle with faith in a way that this kind of dog shit that most Christian industries want to push does not do. And again, they don't do that for a reason. That's my second point. They do it on purpose because they don't want you to think. They don't want you to develop complex ideas. They don't want you to have any shades of gray in your morality. They don't want you to literally operate the religion correctly by holding grace for other people and understanding that none of us are sparkling white. All of us have some damage and darkness from the world on us. That's actually, when someone says, hey, we're all sinners, that's actually liberating. Because it reminds us that there is no one who is better than. There is no one who is, more worthy of God. There is no one who just came into this world perfect. Except Mary, if we're going with the Immaculate Conception. And obviously, by extension, Jesus. Relax. And geez, if you don't want to watch any of that, you know who else? Hey, if you want to get complex people and nuanced storytelling and some things that really aren't clear about shades of gray and morality and all that, hagiography, as in the lives of saints, and the literal fucking Bible are actually pretty good for this. The Bible would fail the standards of Christian media by a long shot. The Bible has tons of sexual violence, of actual just plain violence, right? All kinds of war and terrible things. We have King David, who is like the darling apple of everyone's eye, the apple of God's eye, and yet he essayed Bathsheba. He did terrible things too, right? Like, the beauty of Christian fiction is wrestling with these concepts and wrestling with these ideas of, is this right? Should I do this? What does it mean if I've already have, right? And the most beautiful stories of all to me are ones that deal with those who don't think they can be redeemed. Because we can all be redeemed. Because we all already are redeemed. That is true Christian fiction. This AI bullshit, we do not need more movies and stories like this. You live in a fucked up complex world. You have to have some understanding of fucked up complex things. And as we look at Jesus' own story, we find that we can do that when we, without fear, walk into the darkness rather than run away from it. So, what do you think? Let me know.